Welcome to Connecting the Community podcast. I am your host, Marj. I will be connecting you to people, organizations, and events that create community. I am creating this podcast in Richmond Hill, an eclectic and very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people, just up the hill from Toronto. On this podcast, I have the pleasure of talking to our mayor, David West, about his recent trip to Germany to the Hannover Messe trade show. The focus of this event, trade show, was on innovative and sustainable technologies. Welcome, David.
Well, thanks, Marj. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your adventures, your experiences. I read the stats for this trade show and 4,000 exhibits, 240 of them from Canada, 127,000 visitors. I'm thinking that this is more than just a trade show. Can you describe what Hannover Messe is?
Yeah, this is a high technology event that's been going on now for many years, and I guess it's morphed, throughout time, to keep up with the latest trends. But the size of it is truly astronomical. I mean, if you think about the Metro Convention Center as one of the buildings, but there were 25 buildings that this show occupied, and just about any business that's in the technology or innovation field was represented there. And this year, Canada was the feature country, so there was a very high proportion of Canadians and a really significant Canadian presence at the show. And I was really pleased to be there to leverage that. It's a great show anyway, but this year, I mean, the timing couldn't have been better.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking at back in December at the Deutschsprachenschule, German language school, and you said you were going to go, and what really precipitated? How did you get the idea to go?
Yeah, so I think this all took place before the situation with Donald Trump and these tariffs and the chaos that the world has been in. But the idea initially was that we are like any municipality, a growing municipality, and we're competing for jobs and we're competing for economic opportunities with everybody else. And I don't think Richmond Hill has necessarily in recent times been out in the world enough and to let them know what a fantastically great community we have and what the value proposition of Richmond Hill is for businesses and particularly high-tech businesses. So the trade show was initially really just about that. And that in and of itself, I think, is definitely something that I can get behind. It was something we need to do. But in the meantime, Donald Trump did what he did, and one of the additional reasons for being there is to frankly get companies to come to Richmond Hill, and also get customers for the companies that are already here. Diversifying our trade with the rest of the world is really important, and that was an important secondary, but probably just as important reason to be there.
Okay, so really good timing for you going. Now, there was one Richmond Hill company that was there and won an award from Hannover Messe, Maple Advanced Robotics.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about this company?
Yeah, they're an incredible company, and in many ways, actually, they're very typical of the kinds of really outstanding cutting edge companies that we have so many of in our city. Just as an aside, it's interesting when I think about Richmond Hill and the companies that are there. I mean, we certainly have brand names in Richmond Hill that people know. And we're very proud of them. But the other kind of segment of our ecosphere in Richmond Hill is companies that are supporting the brands that we know, but you don't necessarily know them. And Maple Advanced Robotics is a good example of that. These guys created, with the help of AI and robotics, a product that will sand and surfaces that are not necessarily uniform, and they're contoured. So, without getting too much into detail, a camera will take a picture of what the robotic arm is going to sand. It'll analyze the contours, any variabilities in the surface that it's sanding, and then it'll go to it. But this was an award-winning technology, and as a matter of fact, they were the one of all of the people that were exhibiting at that show to win the top company in the robotics and AI field. We're very, very, very proud of them as a company, and it was really wonderful to be there to congratulate Dr. Yi in person.
Yeah, no, wow, that does sound really impressive. Now, were there other Richmond Hill companies there as well?
There was another company there that does it's a company that will machine holders for tools in the tool and die industry, and we didn't actually know that they were going to be there, but they were, and they were sharing in the York Region booth. But that was pretty much it for York Region, or sorry, for Richmond Hill businesses specifically. There were a few others from kind of the York Region in the Greater Toronto area, though.
Okay, very good. Now, it wasn't just you who went to represent Richmond Hill. You had some staff with you. And I
Yeah.
think I saw Facebook postings of Brenda Osler. I know her from the Board of Trade. So, anyone else that was with you?
Yeah. So two of our senior staff from the economic development department were there, and I should say I want to have thanked them profusely, but will continue to do so. They really set the stage for all of the meetings and the conversations that we had in advance of going to a show like this. And as a matter of fact, going to an international trade show such as this, you need to be organized, and you need to know who you're going to talk to in advance, because it's a pretty big trip. And being able to know and have targets of companies that you want to speak to is really important. And they did a great job with the very, very, very many conversations that we had with various businesses from around the world.
Whoa, okay. I'm thankful for that too. Now, I'm just trying to imagine you being there with all this AI uh, displays. Like, were you overwhelmed? Like, what were your impressions? Yeah, what do you think of all this technology?
Yeah, well, it's amazing. Any of the technological advances that you can think of that are, up and coming, that you've started to hear in the news, they were there. There was robotics, there were, software companies, there were, just about anything that you can imagine. One of the technologies that I must admit I did learn more about, and that was very prominent there, was hydrogen. And there were a number of companies that were there featuring technologies to get hydrogen, to use hydrogen, and learning more about this. I really believe that there is a market for companies to work in that space, to do research and development, and frankly, I think that their place is in many ways in Richmond Hill. We I think this is something that I'd like to pay it more attention to in the next little while, because I really think that it's an up and coming technology which shows a lot of promise, for our clean energy future. So that was one of many, folks that were there, and showing off their technology and their innovations.
Whoa, yeah. I think you might have thought you were in some science fiction movie with everything that was just the pictures I saw on the website of, whoa, it's some impressive things. But wondering, like, people may not have heard of Richmond Hill before. How did you, how did you describe it?
Yeah, and actually, that's one of the reasons that we wanted to make sure we were there, and and I will say we were there with the support of the Canadian government. As I said, they had a very big presence there, and with the support of York Region and their York Regional government as well. But you're right. people don't necessarily think of Richmond Hill in an international setting like that. Like we're well known at home, but I want them to think about Richmond Hill, and I want them to know that we have the most highly educated workforce in Canada. We have the highest number of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math graduates. So our workforce is well positioned for high tech types of companies, which is exactly who we're trying to attract. We're essentially the center of the Greater Toronto Area universe. I mean, literally, with Yonge Street going right up the middle of us, with the 404, with the 400, with the 407. We have a robust transportation network. We're close to markets. We're close to American markets. So this is a really world class location for companies to go to. And I will say, we heard time and time and time again when we were talking to particularly European, business owners looking, to invest in places like Richmond Hill, that they had plans to expand into the United States, but with all that's going on and Trump continually shooting himself in the foot in that regard, they're not going there anytime soon. And I was very quick to explain to them, well, Canada has a lot of things that are appealing to them, and when all of this trade stuff blows over, they'll have a foothold in North America. And that was a message that was very well received by many companies.
Okay. Like, was there any interest on what type of city it was? Like, we've got lots of green space, we're very diverse, anything like that? Was that ever a
Yeah,
question?
yes. As a matter of fact, I mean, again, one of the things that resonated a lot with companies that are in the environmental technology space is just our commitment to, having a sustainable environment. The fact that the United Nations Institute for Water, Environment, and Health is now in Richmond Hill, the fact that we're a front runner city with the Urban Economy Forum, which is also a United Nations uh, affiliated organization. The work that we've done over many years, being good stewards of our environment, and the plans that we have, including our community energy and emissions plan going forward, that are going to be making us a net zero community by 2051. So all of these types of things were also, important selling points to any of the businesses that are interested in the environment or are doing environmental technologies. A lot of these businesses like to be where it's happening, and Richmond Hill is where it's happening.
Ooh, okay. This international perspective actually is quite refreshing, and I really do hope there are a lot of collaborations. I'm actually thinking what they can bring, augment to for us. Like they could make our city even better. So I'm going to
That's
keep my fingers crossed that a lot of this happens. So, what are your takeaways as mayor? Like, are you going to enact some policies, some plans? Any wishes, any specific things done to attract these businesses?
Yeah, so some of the meetings that we had were with trade commissioners and representatives in different countries, and those are meetings that we need to stay in touch with those people to make sure that they're always thinking of Richmond Hill. And we had some excellent meetings from many different parts of the world, and especially in Europe, and also the folks that we met that expressed interest in doing things, and in some cases they're already here but would like to potentially do more in Richmond Hill. So, the hard work begins now because the networking that we did in Hannover Messe, really will only bear fruit if we continue to follow up on a lot of those contacts and a lot of those leads. So we'll be doing that in the next little while. But I have no doubt that this meeting, this trade mission, was a success, and I do think that we're going to start to see things come out of it. I mean, it may be in the short term, it may be in the medium term, but I think if Richmond Hill is going to be a world-class city, we need to make sure that we're out on the world stage.
Okay, no, sounds really good. Now, let's sort of switch talking about this event. Did you have any fun? Like, did you have some great German food, or did you just sort of have to be stuck in this huge trade show all the time?
Yeah, it was a very, very, very busy schedule, and between that and a bit of jet lag, I mean, we really didn't have a lot of time to go out touring. Although I must admit, we did land in Munich, and we visited the head office of BMW. Because the head office for Canada for BMW is right here in Richmond Hill. And I have to say, just as an aside, I was sitting in the lobby of this unbelievably beautiful head office building in Munich for BMW, and looked to my left, and the Canadian flag was flying right beside the German flag. And so I said, "Oh, what's that all about?" And she says, "Oh, that's just in honor of Richmond Hill, being here today." So I thought that was really nice.
Oh,
We also visited a municipality just outside of Munich that's doing a lot of things that are similar to us, and they're about the same size as us. And so we kind of wanted to develop a bit of a partnership with them and an understanding of some of the things that they're going to be doing. So there was a little bit of travel between places. We did get to see a little bit of the landscape from the train between Munich and Hanover, but there wasn't a lot of time. I will say though, I did have schnitzel a couple of times, and it was all worth it from a culinary point of view for sure.
okay. What were there entertainment? I'm trying. Sometimes trade shows in the evening will have special entertainment. Anything like that? Did you get taste of German culture?
During the show, there were some the hospitality events, but I mean, we didn't really partake much in those. As I said, by the end of the day, particularly with the walking, I mean, the event venue is enormous, and the amount of walking that you do, back and forth, it was pretty substantial. So we didn't spend a lot of time doing that. It was basically, get back to the hotel, go to sleep, and be recharged for the next day.
Okay.
But having said that, we did have an opportunity every day to ride the underground or the subway in Hanover, and also when we were in Munich, and we also used the trains. And man, what a fantastic transit system they have in Germany. And we have a long way to go to compete with the excellence of their public transit system, but it's something to aspire to. And I would also say, I was very pleasantly, not surprised, but I guess surprised is the right word, how comfortable it is to be in Germany. Germany is a very, very different country than Canada for, in a number of different aspects, but the fundamentals of German society seem very similar to Canada. And I say that, it was said many, many times by a number of different people, including some Germans that we met, that Canada is about as European as you can get without actually being in Europe. And I think that also bodes very well for our partnerships. We don't necessarily speak the same language. I must admit, most Germans speak English, it seems, but I think we come from a place that is quite similar in terms of our societal fundamentals.
Okay, very good. Now, do you think you'll put Germany on your wish list for traveling for?
I'm not much of a traveler. I don't do a lot of traveling on a personal level, but it would be somewhere that I would go again. I mean, as I said, there were lots of things that we kind of glanced at, but didn't actually get a chance to visit with the schedule that we had. But it is a beautiful, beautiful country, and the people in Germany, I've never ever met a group of people that are that friendly. I mean, we pride ourselves on being friendly, but I think they might, be beating us in that regard. And the cleanliness and the beauty of the cities that we saw was unrivaled. I've never seen anything like that. It was just gorgeous.
Okay, very good. Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, it was a great trip, and I would very much like to see us, as I said, getting out there on the world stage. We are in competition. That is the reality, and to compete, you need to be known, and to be known, you have to spend some time getting out there and making sure that we're doing the best that we can for our businesses, because frankly, that translates to good paying jobs, and in an environment like we're in right now with all that's going on with the tariffs, it also translates to a more robust ecosystem for our economy. And that's really, essentially the main reason that we would go on a trip like this. And I'm very proud of Richmond Hill's ecosystem with regard to its economy. But when you're good, you can always do better. And I think we need to be able to attract all the greatest businesses to our business parks, now and in the future.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So I do end the podcast with the same question I ask all guests, and even if they've been on multiple times like you, but I think this time you may have a little different answer because of your experiences in Germany. I want you to name one thing you really like about this community.
Yeah, I going on international trips like this makes you stop and think about what we have to offer. And I mean, I know this stuff. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, but it makes you sit down and contemplate what we have as a community. And I have to say, we really do have a great community. We have a good economic ecosystem, and again, I think we're good enough to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing on the environment, and and that shows. And it's something that I can proudly talk about when we go on international trips and or local trips, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
We have a really great multicultural community, and that is something that's incredibly valuable to us. I mean, it's a great thing. It enriches our lives, but it also means that we have people that know people in almost any corner of the earth that you can possibly think of. And I frankly can't think of a better place to live than Richmond Hill. And it really, in a situation like this, makes it very evident that we have a good thing going here.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So I will add to the podcast notes the Hannover Messe website because I think it's something cool to look at, and also your website, and encourage people who have not signed up for your newsletter to do so. It is very valuable. So appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast, and I'm sure we will see you around town soon.
Thanks, Marj. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for listening. I would very much appreciate you sharing this podcast. Consider emailing me at Marj, M-A-R-J, at marjandre.com. I welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Stay well, stay connected.